Welcome to Different Gravy, not just another Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm one of the hosts, Richard Miller, and my co-host, Thirsty Luke Gledall, whose Spotify Wrapped somehow featured Rebecca Lucy Taylor's Self-Esteem 3 times alongside the obligatory entries for Singing the Blues and Hi-Ho Silver Lining. How are you doing today, Luke?
I'm very good, Rich. That's really not far off the truth. I think I spent 7 hours virtually with the wonderful Rebecca Lucy Taylor. Just the real shame that it wasn't IRL.
Oh, you've got to have a dream. If you don't have a dream, how are you going to have a dream come true? As Dizzy Rascal said.
He did also say, sweet as a nut, sweet like Tropicana, hit you on the head, has splits like banana.
He did.
Which I remembered and recalled the other day. It was a lot of fun.
And I'm old school like Happy Shopper. That was good.
I like that line. Yeah, that was good.
Do they still exist?
I think they're long dwindled into into non-existence, I think.
That's a real shame. So
they had quite a good sweet selection, I remember.
Yeah, it was a good place. And that happy little chap on the bags.
Spice, exactly. Had a nice beaming smile. Lovely.
Yeah. Well, it was a treat. So we're recording. I'm straight back from the match, so I was eating crisps all the way home. So I'm hot. I'm drinking Diet Coke. So I'm hopped up on a collection of adrenaline, sodium, and caffeine, which is quite a potent mixture. So this could be, we could go in some spiraling directions here. This could.
What flavour of crisps were you eating?
Just some straight up salty Ruffles. They were, in fact, ridged.
Ruffles, eh? Wow.
Ridged for your pleasure, yes.
Lovely.
Yeah, that's room for more salt. So yeah, the crash. In about half an hour's time, when all of that juice runs out, it could get messy. There could be tears. So we'll move swiftly along, and we'll without further ado.
Breaking hoo-hoos.
There's been a few bits and pieces in terms of breaking hoo-hoos or breaking news.
It's and it's almost felt like there's been so much kind of bits of news. Weirdly, it's kind of reminded me of the international break, and then it's weirdly just made me think it's felt so long to this game, even though it's purely just a week. What is up with that? How does the news cycle kind of affect?
Fill the void. Well, this was the Premier League's week. They finally got a bit of spotlight from the Championship. And in the UK, every single Premier League game was available to watch on the Amazon Prime streaming service.
Yeah.
So the Championship had to make way to leave that door open for them, because otherwise nobody would have paid any attention to the Premier League.
And Amazon Prime have rights to like 30 games, so basically 3 rounds, 3 game weeks, so to speak, of the Prem. Which is it something like that, or is it even less?
Something
I think it's
like
20 matches or something. It's the weirdest and shittest football TV deal that I think has ever been kicking around. And that's why I guess they were pulling that really bizarre shit with, we'll have all these games kick off at 7:30. Apart from 1 or 2, we'll have them kick off at 8:15.
And there was some early. It was staggered. It was a weird thing. It was a weird thing to be part of. And we were actively and regularly encouraged to consume across different devices. They kept saying, you can have one on your TV, you can have one on your phone, and another on your tablet. So yeah, that's how you have to watch the Premier League. Get it all in. Watch the one game you care about, another one you don't care about as much, and a third that you literally couldn't care a jot about at the same time.
Like a disinterested security guard.
Yes. Nothing ever happens in Sector 3. So Wednesday-wise,
oh dear,
filling the championship football void was some news.
We did, and also one thing I've completely forgotten about. We were just doing a quick recap before we started recording. One thing that's completely bypassed me because it's so horrendously underwhelming is the third round FA Cup draw.
Of course,
a real bum tie, maybe not a plum tie.
We have got the classic Wednesday tie. I know there's confirmation bias involved in this, so don't correct me. But we always get a Premier League team who are more than good enough to beat us comfortably, but in no way exciting to anybody, including both the teams involved.
And any potential kind of TV coverage. Yeah, so there's no kind of great bolster there. It's down in Brighton. Could you imagine having to go down to Brighton on a weekend to watch Wednesday?
Yeah, I think Brighton as a place to visit for your weekend is quite a nice thing potentially. But
I guess so. It's just
to watch Brighton versus Wednesday there is almost the worst thing you can possibly do.
Yes, very much so. And it's a real long visit to watch Wednesday kind of limp out of the cup, I imagine.
Yep, with our cobbled together third choice team against the cobbled together third choice team of Brighton. What a treat! What a treat to look forward to. And the magic of the FA.
I also imagine it's going to be a fantastic episode for Different Gravy. For that episode, I predict that Rich and I will plump our assumptions against us listening to the match because it won't be on TV. So we can just basically, I'm already so infused and excited for it as we speak.
Maybe we should record it ahead of time and then just put it out regardless. Because I think that might be quite fun. That's how to make it fun, is to just guess how the game will go, almost minute by minute.
Should we just do a fictional kind of football manager game? Game log, basically. Let's do that.
So that was the first huge piece of news to drop in the midst of the week. We also heard that Burnley were showing some interest, apparently. This was Alan Nixon's account on Twitter telling us that Burnley were showing some interest in Dominic Iorfa, which is not surprising, slightly depressing. But the figure involved, £15 million, would obviously be a welcome sum. Once again,
seems like an inexplicably fair amount for a young, promising, talented, absolute brick shithouse of an English defender, getting hoovered up by a Premier League team who are, slightly middling. It ticks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how excited the Burnley manager will be about these roaming. I've forgotten his name now. It's really annoying. Sean? Is it Sean?
Sean Dyche?
Sean Dyche. There we go. Yeah, I don't know how excited he'll be about Iorfa's rangy runs forward. I mean, Burnley are pretty much a hump it and lump it team, aren't they? They're as close to a one-dimensional direct football team as there is in the Premier League, I would. But yeah, Big Dom has caught their eye potentially. As you say, I think 15 million seems like a very fair figure, and given that whatever it was 18 months ago or maybe 2 years ago, we signed him for £250,000 or whatever it was. Man alive, that's some tidy business we will have done. But he's incredible at centre back. It's been an enormous revelation. Undoubtedly, the best thing about this season has been seeing Dominic Iorfa take that mantle and run with it, quite literally, up the field.
Through large galloping strides, just chewing up the pitch with great ease.
Go on.
Just like a massive engined monster truck, basically.
Just incredible. At points he looks like he's playing a different game to the other people he's playing against. There was 2 or 3 moments today where it was like an entirely static box of players, and somehow he is hurtling towards the ball full pelt, and just brilliant to watch him play centre back, and seemingly has built now another good partnership with Tom Lees alongside the great partnership that he had with Julian Borner. So adaptable as well. Why not? Why wouldn't people be interested? I sort of said it last week. I'd be surprised if people aren't watching him because he's something else. He's different gravy.
He is indeed. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the difficult thing is we wouldn't besmirch such a giant transfer fee and the chance for him to kind of kick on and develop himself at a club largely kind of established as, a middling Premier League side, but a Premier League side nonetheless. So
yeah, and also a shock though if he ends. There's a potential to go from Burnley to teams higher up the division as well. So. I don't know. I wouldn't go so far as to say he's a top 4 style defender, but at the moment it's like, well, let's see how far he can go in that position because he's certainly too good for the Championship, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So the final bit was the chairman, Dep John Chancery's Fergie-like approach to legal matters, apparently. You'll score 4, we'll score 5. Taking it to the EFL with a counter-suing announcement, and waving his emails like Rafa Benitez in his pomp. I also wrote down a little joke about Monk being encouraged to take the season into Fergie time. But by way of the playoffs, but presumably in some ways it suits us to not to go into this in too much detail. We've got a match to talk about, but presumably in some ways it suits us to keep this as an actively disputed piece of legal work. Because the longer it rumbles along and nothing gets decided, there's the potential to sneak up, and out of the clamour and reaches of the EFL, which is what QPR did. It's what Villa did. It's by no means a given, but if we can keep this, keep kicking the can down the road till beyond the end of the season and maybe into next season, it sort of buys you a bite of the cherry that potentially we wouldn't have had otherwise without such an aggressive approach.
Yeah. And this is unfortunately the nature of the kind of legal system. This will just rumble on for quite some time.
Well, I think, QPR were originally fined 150 million or something like that. That was the original fine. And then when they didn't pay it, the EFL threatened that they wouldn't let them back into the Championship when they got relegated. Funnily enough, the EFL allowed QPR to play when they got relegated, play in the Championship. And I think 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 years later, they agreed on a fee to pay, which was considerably smaller than that 150 million. So who knows? I mean, the crux of our argument seems to be that the previous regime at the EFL were pretty happy for clubs to do this, to the point where they were talking them through the steps to take. And by do this, I mean sell the ground to the owner and count it towards your profits in the books. So presumably we've got paperwork to that effect from the members of the team at the EFL saying, here's how you do it, here's how much you can do it for. And then a new chairman comes in and has a different take on things and is stamping his feet and throwing around fines for things. So it's pretty tricky as the club to know where you stand, and it really doesn't feel fair that a change of regime at the EFL can mean that what you were doing last year, being kind of presumably helped along by the EFL, is now illegal according to the EFL just because of a change of staff. That's a pretty crazy situation to be in.
It really doesn't put the EFL in a very good light, does it?
It makes it look like a 2-bit operation, which...
It does seem like an impeccably disorganized, flighty organization. Just nothing particularly there that's making you think you should put your trust in them to, essentially run free football leagues with 72 professional teams within them. Yes, exactly. Or I guess maybe right now we're 71 with the still rumblings on regarding Berry. And, it's just not good. It's not...
This appears to be the season. Like, I may be wrong and I may be misjudging this in terms of, the scope and things like that. But it feels like this season we have had more clubs in desperate financial circumstances than we've had for years, including Bury going completely to the wall. Bolton being as close, a gnat's whisker away from the same happening to them, but in the meantime missing, what was it, something like 7 games of football?
I think the distance is even closer for Bolton. I would say it's a gnat's chuff.
Gnat's chuff.
Sorry, anyway,
thanks for the correction, Luke.
Just to make the crass correction to you, Rich. That's all I have to add to this conversation. You please carry on.
But then there was also, is it Macclesfield? They are also in a position where they've had a game cancelled because they're not paying players. So this new regime is overseeing now several lower league clubs desperately struggling, and at the same time penalising clubs in our league for doing what they need to do to kind of get along. I mean, I'm not completely whitewashing what we've done, but if it is the situation that we were told, 6 months apart, we're told this is fine, and then actually no, this is dreadful and illegal, that almost feels like entrapment or something. It's pretty crazy situation to be in. No, dude, please do sell your ground. Actually, it's a good idea. We recommend it here at the EFL. Oh, here at the EFL, we think that's a really bad thing to do. You shouldn't have done it. Anyway, we can go around in circles with this. There was a football match today, Luke.
There was, and while you talk about entrapment, the disappointing thing that from this entrapment, there is no Michael Douglas to be seen or Catherine Zeta-Jones. Oh no, it was Catherine Zeta-Jones, damn it. Sorry, I think it's disclosure. I think the problem is there's so many of these action films that sound incredibly similar. So Entrapment's the one with Catherine Zeta-Jones bending a lumbar buttocks in between some lasers.
I believe in Workaholics they did a song for it, didn't they? Catherine Zeta-Jones. She dips beneath lasers.
Oh. Which then I remember
she has entrapped me. Oh. Sorry, that's a great series.
She's entrapped me and Sean Connery. And do you remember as well? I tried to kind of put across the song from Marco Mateus to the same tune.
Yes, I do.
He dips beneath fullbacks. He has enchanted me, and the Wednesday. Ooh. I think that would have been good. If only if it was true, and if only if Marco Mateus was any good and actually stuck around at Hillsborough.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's not talk about the past. Let's talk about the present, eh?
Let's talk about So a football match happened. It was at Hillsborough Stadium, and it happened at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. All of these things are increasingly rare. Oh my goodness! So
rare.
We were drinking in the joy of that being something that happened. So yeah, that was nice. The team that was announced, the only change was Murphy replacing Forestieri, who it seems is properly injured for a change. So Forestieri completely dropped out of the squad. So it meant we were playing 2 up top again, 2 in midfield, and by and large rewarding the team that won against Charlton with their places again.
Which I guess seems fair. I guess there's the interesting question of, it's funny, I was listening to Singing the Blues with James Marriott and star journalist Dom Howson. Dom seemed to absolutely cream himself over Tom Lees in that game, which is something I didn't really share with him. I don't think it was bad, but I just don't think he was that good. So I guess there's a question of whether you kind of, and I can see the argument of keeping that shape, but maybe partially for myself, I was really kind of clamoring for the return of Julian Berner as well.
Yes, it's a shame that he's missing out, but as I say, I think that seems to be a kind of growing partnership between Lees and Iorfa. And I think maybe as long as Iorfa's the other one. I don't really mind which one of the two fills in next to him.
Interesting. I was going to ask you as to, I mean, we can come on to this into the analysis, but I'm also kind of struggling to see. Liz has been fine. I don't think it hasn't seemed like a really kind of scintillating partnership to me between the two defenders.
I think so I think what people have enjoyed about it is it's Lee's doing what he does well, pretty much. So could
you just remind me in the studio and the audience as well?
Studio
audience, yeah. I keep needing to check that laughter track that doesn't seem to be working, and also the applause button seems to be a bit faulty as well. I have not had any approval for any of my stuff here. Anyway, could you remind myself and the listeners just what is it that Leeds does the best?
Kind of meat and potatoes defending. Not showy, just kind of nipping in and stopping things, nipping things in the bud. Not big slide tackles, just blocking off channels and pretty steady defending on the whole. Next to someone who, when it was his previous brilliant partnership, it was Glenn Leuven's. So next to someone that is, in Glenn Leuven's case, going up for every header and letting Tom Lees kind of work in behind and deal with any scraps that fell from his table. And with Dominic Iorfa, it's an even easier job because if he misses the header, he's quick enough to go and clear up his own scraps. So Tom Lees is just dealing with any of the interstitial bits and pieces that might exist, and I think it suits him down to the ground. Really, he's there, he's a presence, but not having to do masses of work. I did think today, though, the fact he is not left-footed and in no way is comfortable with his left foot did. In the first half, it felt like either just by the break of the ball or it was actually something Brentford were working on. He was put in positions where he had to clear under pressure on his left foot and generally struggled pretty badly to do that. So that's definitely one of the drawbacks of them, the two of them as a partnership. But I think whilst we keep winning, it's going to be difficult for Julian Burns to get back in.
That's okay. I can see your points with that. I think maybe that's to the tune of the fact that you have this incredibly expensive microscope in which to see the real finer points of Tom Lees' game, and maybe I just needed to be completely glaringly obvious about what he's doing. So I haven't seen, it hasn't been bad by any stretch of the imagination. But I don't quite share your same viewpoint regarding Tom Lees RN.
That's fair enough. Right now, you're there with the abbreviations today. I like it. So the match kicked off. It was a fairly sort of brisk first 15 minutes. Both teams were kind of up and at them, and that was quite fun. But then
there was a real kind of huge there's a real flurry for the first kind of 2-3 minutes from us, and then it kind of switched back to Brentford for the remaining 3 minutes.
Yeah, they I think once the game calmed down, they looked very good. I think overall, one of the things I would say is I think maybe Brentford were the best team I've seen at Hillsborough this season. Because obviously we've had Leeds and Swansea, both games that potentially we could or should have won, and we did win today, which is very nice. But I think overall that Brentford team looked very good. Lots of tidy little players. Very quick and strong across the back as well.
So I think I read a stat that basically all of their players were under 23 that played last week. So They've really got a lot of verve and drive and a lot of pace. But there's also quite a bit of skill to a lot of their players as well. So I was really impressed. I thought they were a very, very good side today. I'm wondering if whether in kind of recollection, Leeds were very, very close though. I think Leeds were a very good side that we played.
I think, absolutely. I think they were better. Like of the three, it was Swansea were definitely third, and Leeds were much closer to Brentford. But I think I was impressed. And for the whole of the first half, I was just worried. I just felt like they looked dangerous all of that first half. And just so much movement and lots of interchangeable. I mean, they effectively had 5 players that just could kind of live in each other's pockets and swap round. The only one that seemed to be a kind of permanent was number 6, Norgard, in front of the 2 centre backs. But the other 5 just moving around constantly and making spaces. Number 10 looked incredibly Ben Rama, if that's how you say it.
Benyama?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. But he looked incredibly confident on the ball, just so comfortable. So it's. I was impressed by them. I also thought similarly. We struggled in the first half. It's obviously a bit of give and take. It's hard for both teams to play well at the same time. But I thought our 2 in midfield looked like they were a bit overwhelmed. What did you think? There was a tackle early on where Hutchinson absolutely nailed one of their players who was down for a considerable amount of time getting treatment. I haven't seen that back, but it didn't look like a good tackle. It wasn't. Nothing was given. The ref waved play on. But do you remember the tackle I'm talking about?
I don't remember. I do. I don't remember it being too offensive by any means. I don't think there were really any very difficult or bad challenges today.
Okay.
Maybe Brentford could feel slightly appeased by. I think they had a challenge in the second half, which one of their players took a yellow. I think he kind of just clattered. I can't remember who it was. I think it was maybe Murphy, or maybe it was Reach. No, it was Reach. It was Reach after Reach came on for Murphy. But yeah, it wasn't particularly, for a spirited game, it wasn't particularly dirty. There wasn't really any kind of bad challenges.
Oh, well, fair enough. Mm-hmm. It looked like he'd gone over the ball from where I was. But granted, I am a long way away from where that incident happened. And when Hutch went over to apologise, the player was not in the mood to say, "Nah, you're all right, mate. Thanks very much." He gave him a mouthful back, so Hutch went away, sort of muttering and gesticulating. First half, I don't think we saw much from Nuhiu and Fletcher as a partnership. It didn't seem to gel at all today. And number 5, Pinnock for them, is an absolute monster of a human being. Even to the point where I think his head is like a rhomboid or something. It's not a normal head shape. Or an octagonal or something. I don't know. It's some convoluted shape, I swear. But he's an absolute beast and just gobbled up anything long. So I thought Nuhiu didn't really get into the game, and I thought Fletcher was actively having a fairly bad game in the first half. I don't know. So the highlight really was Hutchinson just charging around all over the place.
I thought he looked really good in the first half. He just looked really up for it. But there was just a lot of class to just kind of really go alongside that industry that he was giving in that first half. And he had some beautiful kind of sprayed balls kind of out wide.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of everything. He was kind of surging forward at times as well. Really some of the best Hutchinson I think we've seen this season.
He was charging around like a teenager. It was like somebody who'd just got a new sports car, you know? Just going very fast everywhere because you've got a sports car. And I was not surprised when he got absolutely knackered in the second half and needed to come off. Started cramping up. But no, it was nice to see, and I do think I'm wondering, does Hutch have something against Brentford? Because was it Brentford where do you remember he sort of charged down, he sort of ran 2/3 of the pitch to charge down a fullback and score a goal, or set up a goal, maybe last season or a couple of seasons ago? I'm wondering if that was Brentford as well. Maybe if there's something that annoys him about that B on their crest. He's allergic. He's terrified of the anaphylaxis, so he throws himself headlong into matches against Brentford.
Do you think that's maybe his kind of Chelsea roots coming up against Brentford?
Maybe.
I mean, that's a similar neck of the woods. I mean, it's not a particularly big one in terms of derbies, but maybe there might be a little bit of leftover.
Maybe, yeah. It's
Yeah.
hard to think that's got much history that as a rivalry, but maybe. But so Brentford, for all their good play, didn't seem to make too many chances in the first half. But half-hour mark, they got a corner. Again, I've heard that wasn't a corner. The corner.
It wasn't a corner. And that's so. Do you want to kind of get on and talk about the goal? Because I mean, that's basically.
I think so. I think that's basically the next thing that happened really in the game from my memory anyway. Forgive me if I've skipped over things.
There's one bit I thought Murphy should have won a free kick, but I can't remember exactly.
Oh yes,
how that was.
definitely. That should have been from that Norgard, number 6. Definitely should have a free kick.
I mean, we can kind of get onto this with a certain length, and also the rest of the players. There was a time, and I think in the 10th minute, I was a little bit surprised. Maybe Fletcher was offside, maybe he was offside, but there seemed to be a lot of offsides. We seem to be offside a lot this game.
Lots of offsides, which really kicked up a notch second half.
And I can say what the reason why, but I might just keep my powder dry until when we get to the second half. In terms of the narrative, and wait for that little kind of plot twist to happen. Anyway, so it wasn't a corner. It came off the Brentford player.
Yeah, well, so there you go. That's annoying. If only we had VAR.
If only the thing we love and adore, and that we didn't say in a previous episode, that is one of the things wrong with football that we want to get shut of. Then yeah, we can get this beloved VAR to the second tier of the Championship, second tier of English football. And so it wasn't a corner. I thought it was the very kind of weak corner that kind of came in. Probably a good delivery from Brentford, but it didn't seem too much that would be too challenging in terms of a delivery.
It looked like it maybe should have been dealt with at the front post, but it did go. I don't think Fletcher would have got on the end of it, but I think the fact he went for it like he was going to get it through everybody else. I think everyone really switched off, including maybe the goal scorer, because it kind of bounced off his face. I'm not sure how much he knew about his goal.
I don't know. I thought from my perspective, and definitely from the commentary, they were really praising the header itself.
It
was a good header. It was kind of classy, but just to get from that situation was kind of frustrating. And I guess defensively, we can very much look at this and say, this is again we're the architects of our own downfall yet again. Negative playmaking, which we've got a real penchant for at Sheffield Wednesday Football Club. We seem to really do it really well. That as a corner I felt could have been dealt with before. We can say the frustrations, obviously, that it shouldn't have been a corner because it wasn't a corner.
Yeah. And
once again, another observation I want to make. So Odebajo was basically just holding, I think it's Mabumo. Mabumo is the Brentford player who scored the header. And it's once again another situation which Odebajo has missed out on a header. And I wouldn't rather want to see him somewhere in the middle on defending corners if all he's going to really do is just basically try and get his hands on a player and just hold him still. Yeah,
it was very poor defending. Overall, I thought he had a fairly good game, Odebajo, but defending wise, he really relies on the fact that he's got some recovery pace. It's alarming how often he kind of lets the first thing happen. Like the winger will get the run against him, or the ball will go over his head, and then he's able to sort it out. But he's relying so much on the fact that he's quite quick, and that doesn't work when you're stood stock still in the middle of a penalty area. It's quite a big job for him to have. I don't know. They had some big players, but it seems a bit odd that was the job given to him, to be honest.
I think he was up against a lot as well. Going back to Brentford, I really feel like the player I really clamoured for in the Brentford game, who I think at one point we were actually linked with, is Rico Henry, who I thought was just absolute quality on the left. And was kind of getting forward a lot. So, I mean, Odebajo was essentially up against quite a bit today on that kind of left flank.
Yes, he was always an option. Always an option. And played some good. There was a good pass at one point that a cutback that he played at one point from a crossing position that they probably should have done better with, I think. So interestingly, so go on. Yeah, you go. I think we should close off the first half because it was one of those games where it really was a tale of two halves, I think. So I think we should close off the first half and then talk about the second as a separate matter, really.
It's a funny thing that basically we were up against Brentford in that first half. I mean, there was some good play from us. It wasn't poor by any means. We looked a little bit off it. It looked a bit sloppy at times. There's a few kind of misplaced passes. We were kind of really that killer pass or touch in the final third away from, maybe getting a goal, really. Or maybe that's probably being quite generous. I think backtrack to that. Like, there isn't particularly a great deal in terms of shots from the first half from us, anything great on targets. The only thing I can really remember is that kind of mix-up in the first half. There was that defensive mix-up very early on in the game, within the first couple of minutes.
Yeah, I thought Fletch had a couple of things he could have done better with. And then Atinuyu did have a header at the far post that, again, it just seemed to bounce off the top of his head without him moving, even gesturing towards the fact that a cross was coming his way. Which
the one that just kind of drifted innocently into the middle of the cop. That one.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, because we were kicking towards the cop in the first half and, upfield, up pitch, albeit very minorly.
Yes.
As the interesting thing we're aware of at Hillsborough. Yeah, there is a slight incline, isn't there, at Hillsborough? Which is why Wednesday liked to go second half, kicking towards the cop end.
Well, to kick, but the 8 assorted fans from Brave Souls that came up from Brentford would have been slightly disappointed not to see their team attacking towards them in the second half. It was thin gruel in terms of the second half for Brentford fans. Anyway, go on.
So basically for the first half, I mean, there was some good play, there's some nice bits, but it just felt that there'd be like a chain of 3 or 4 kind of nice passes, and then it would kind of collapse. There wasn't quite I don't seem to remember a great deal of connection from the wings between, going into the strikers. I don't recall a great deal of what Atty did in that first half.
Well, I think we couldn't win headers where it was lumped straight down the field. And then I think both the wingers were actually pretty evenly matched with their fullback. So they were struggling to kind of make the best of opportunities. So, yeah, we were kind of left. It was a bit hard to see how we were going to do anything, really. We were pretty... and as the half drew on, their centre-backs were increasingly confident and came further and further forward to the point where they were spending a good chunk of the game almost sort of defending the halfway line because they were confident in Henry and Rasmussen chasing Harris and Murphy back if we managed to somehow get down the flanks, and they knew they had nothing to worry about at all with Atinuyu trying to attack the space behind.
Well, that's the thing is, I mean, we are, you're lumping it forward and then you've got to kind of head down, and then you imagine that second ball is probably a real challenge from maybe the mobility of Nuyu or Fletcher against some of these spry young, Brentford players. All look who they have a bit of pace about them, all have, great degrees of mobility. They can just get around the pitch pretty damn easily. And Brentford were a very good side, like we've mentioned. The first half, I thought they were the better side. They were very fluid. The thing that's just really heartbreaking is the fact that it wasn't really a great moment of... I mean, this is the nature of football. You think that basically we should, if we are conceding to a team that's doing really well, it should be a moment of finishing that kind of matches that. And despite the fact it was a good header, really, from our perspective, it was poor and it was very preventable in just a number of different kind of stages, kind of plot points in that goal that we conceded.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was a pretty sort of gutty and low quality goal to have conceded. And then to a large extent, it just felt like we were playing for half time to come. We didn't get through too much. We didn't make any more mistakes. necessarily, and there wasn't great chances for either team. I don't think in the remaining 15 minutes or so.
No, I was saying from my kind of notes, I really felt we needed to. I could just see the game slipping away from us completely just at that part, just because we conceded early to a quality side. Yeah. We don't look like we have much teeth going forward. We needed to have a real moment of quality to score before halftime. Otherwise, as I basically said in my notes, I said it's going to have to be some fantastic second half performance to pull this one around.
So we go to halftime and we make a halftime change, which I think was fairly surprising for everybody. Jordan,
yeah. I didn't think that, despite the fact we lost to New You and things weren't maybe kind of working or kind of falling for him today, or I'm not entirely sure what the issue was. And while it was probably the poorer of the two performances from the strikers, I didn't think it was enough to warrant a halftime change.
I think when those two play together, you get the inclination, unless Fletcher is injured, is to take Nuyu off. Because when they struggle together, it's because they're, like Hutch and Bannon, they're too much trying to play the same role. And Fletcher is infinitely better than Nuyu at that role. And on his own, Fletcher offers so much more. Nuyu is an incredibly limited play. He has gifts and you know but he's working with a very limited palette when it comes to those gifts. You know, he's not got the full Roy G. Biv. He's monochrome. You know. He is a big bludgeoning slow man, and that's about it. Whereas, Fletcher is pretty all action. Not quick, but moves well. I think for his size, gets around the pitch very well. So we made the change. Jordan Rhodes, the forgotten man, enters the fray. And I think fairly early on, it all felt better. The performance was much, much better, almost instantaneously, within sort of 5-10 minutes. It was almost sort of night and day, I would say.
The interesting thing, like, how do you, not night and day, not what, sir?
I said night and day, not light and day. Light and day does not make any sense, which is what I said first.
Okay.
Sorry.
Unless it's like 24-hour kind of sunshine, you're up at the North Pole or something.
Yeah.
In which you're like, well, it should be nighttime, but it's still light.
It's like day or day. It's like some day or more of the day. It's as different as 2 bits of the day can be.
So that introduction of Rhodes, did you think that kind of... I mean, that must have made an effect more than, I think, what I kind of deemed from his performance. Again, I invite Dr. Richard Miller, scientist extraordinaire, football biologist, to really look under the microscope of this performance and the plays itself. He's already done a treatise of the undiscovered talents of Tom Lees, and now he's looking into introduction of Jordan Rhodes into a game.
It was fascinating because I don't think he did anything.
Yeah.
He was offside a bit. He definitely was offside about 4 times. And he probably touched the ball about 4 times. But I think there was a couple of things. So one, it let Fletcher be Fletcher. Because that's the problem with him and Nuyu together, is you end up with Nuyu doing Stephen Fletcher's job worse than Stephen Fletcher. And on a day like today, when we weren't getting any sort of great breaks going forward, you don't get the other half of... Because what it's supposed to do is free Fletcher up to be there more of a striker. But the fact that we weren't getting any joy whatsoever effectively meant we kind of carried Fletcher in the first half. He didn't have anything to do. apart from watch Nuhiu struggle to win headers. So taking Nuhiu off means that Fletcher gets to be Fletcher again. And what Rhodes did was all movement. He stretched their back line and kept them honest. So the fact that they were pushing further and further forward and effectively sort of squishing us into our own half, that stopped because of Jordan Rhodes, because even though he doesn't have pace, he was taking positions that even though he's not that quick, they were having to account for the fact that Jordan Rhodes was stood in those positions. So if he stood where the fullback would be, and the fullback is all the way up the pitch, well, if I'm the other two centre backs and the fullback on the opposing side, I need to be cognizant of the fact he's in that position, because if the ball breaks, the ball could go there, and I've got to be ready to block him off. So it just meant that they weren't able to. We stretched their back line effectively by using Rhodes. And Atty cannot do it because he can't even pretend to be quick, and he's also doesn't have the footballing brain to pick out those bits in behind. Jordan Rhodes, for whatever he's done at Sheffield Wednesday, his whole career has been getting an inch or two away from his marker and trying to make a run in behind. Most of the time at Wednesday, he's done that too early and he's been offside. But
you're saying the extra yards in his exceptionally large forehead?
It may have been.
He doesn't have a large forehead. I like playing off that term, the extra yards in his head for strikers. It's always a classic.
I liked it.
Okay, I still feel the need to apologise. But
to Jordan and his family. So it was a weird magic trick. We changed the game by having a man that didn't do anything do something. Well, do nothing, but do it really cleverly. It was really weird. It was a really weird thing to see. And I loved it. So coming away, I mean, you can't say that Jordan Rhodes did any more than Nuhiu. In fact, he probably did a lot less. But
yeah, it was more effective.
It gave us a space to play in the game, which actually is what Nuhiu tends to do, because normally Nuhiu does win those headers or chest things down, and that's where he gives that space to play it just in front of the defence. It just wasn't happening today. He wasn't able to do it. I think because Pinnock and Janvier, their two centre-backs, were just such physical specimens that they had Nuhiu beat all round. And Norgard is quite a unit as well. So he just wasn't getting any joy at all. And so we couldn't build. He wasn't a platform. But Rhodes was able to bring something different, and an absolutely inspired substitution. I mean, brilliant. What Gary Monk did at half-time is spectacular. It's what we spent those early episodes crying out about with Bullen in charge. It just didn't seem to have a change of tone or a change of. They didn't come out rattled. They weren't chasing around like idiots because they've been screamed at for 15 minutes. They had a different game plan, and it worked. And we were very, very effective in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't just happen with Rhodes coming on. We needed the second substitution really before things started to turn.
That was the interesting thing. I was kind of looking back at this. I went back and on the footage after the game had finished, scrolled back 30 minutes. And for me, the same thing I would kind of say was, another kind of tweak and change was definitely Murphy coming off for Reach.
Yeah, and as we've seen recently with Reach coming off the bench, he came on the pitch with a real hunger to get things going, and desperate to get on the ball was Adam Reach. I think the other thing that happened in the second half, and credit to Murphy and Harris for this, I think their two fullbacks were really tired, and I think the Reach change was really good, because I think Murphy was equally tired with Henry. So being able to bring on Reach against a sort of deflated Henry was brilliant for Adam Reach. And Harris, as we've seen a couple of times, Rasmussen was matching him, step for step all of the first half. Got in a couple of amazing, like big sort of Hotch style tackles as well. But yeah, as the second half wore on, Harris started winning those battles again and again. He was able to ride the challenges. He was able to sort of muscle him out off the ball a couple of times. And real credit to Harris that he stuck at that, because another day and another winger, you just get demoralised that you're kind of banging your head against a wall. But he just kept at that task all game, and in the end was rewarded with his assist and played a part in the first goal as well. So.
Well, that's the exact thing I want to get onto. Is I want to kind of lead into praising Harris for his it's really his kind of stamina, but it's like a mental stamina as well as his physical side of things. And it was a lovely cross he whipped over, and often from different gravy, and often as Wednesday fans and watching many games in the Championship. That Wednesday we can usually say there's a pretty poor standard of officiating, but I really wanted to praise the referee for the penalty call because it was a really good spot for handball.
It was a crazy thing to do from Henry's point of view.
Well, then this is funny. We talk about the tiring. It must have been a real drop and moment of concentration from Brentford, and that's fantastic because then fantastic from our perspective. But it kind of evened things up in terms of there's momentarily dropping of a bollock basically as a player. So Henry, who was just fantastic up until that point. There was absolutely zero need for him to do that. I mean, but it wasn't ever a situation. So if he doesn't handle it, it kind of feeds into Reach. And then I'm not sure what happens next. I think Reach probably get a shot away. I don't think it's going to be something that's going to trouble the keeper or kind of go in. As much as I love Reach and his his skill set for kind of finishing the ball, he's been off, and he's been a little bit slim on confidence so far this season in that regard.
Yeah. It reminded me of the last straw with Westwood and Palmer, that ball at the top, because the reaction was so out of whack with the reality of the situation.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, completely. I completely agree with you. It was,
but it's the panic. It's the way that spirals. You make that one mistake. Oh, I switched off there. Now that ball's cut across. And then it's the trying to get it back. Actually, you nearly always make worse mistakes trying to then salvage the initial mistake, because the fact he then goes, oh, I better stop it getting to Reach anyhow, because I've misjudged the run of this ball. It's going to go to their guy, and he's going to run into the box and score. Well, those two things are by no means a given. Because Reach it wasn't like middle of the goal. Reach would have had to take a good touch and then a good shot to get a goal from the situation. Certainly wasn't a given. A bit like the winger the other week. He would have had to control that bouncing ball at full pace. Yep. So by the time he's got it under control, there's absolutely no guarantee that they get a goal out of that scenario.
No, because you're then in a situation. Exactly like that situation the other week. By the time we've reset to the point where the winger, in this case Reach, has controlled it, a few seconds and things have happened. That gives time for a better reaction for the goalkeeper, for any defenders that are kind of close to that situation. It wasn't the same situation with Wednesday conceding in that situation, but Westwood would have been in a better situation to kind of to monitor things had he given the player the space and not ran up and slapped him in the cock instead.
Exactly.
But it was a different ball getting slapped by this time. Rico Henry slapped the football, the white ball, just out of the air of his hand, and like I said, I could just see that being. I could see that in so many games being a call that basically the ref didn't quite see and he's not entirely sure about it, so he lets it slide. But then, at the time, it seemed kind of innocuous to me from the main angle. And then the replay was like, no, that's completely blatant. Yeah. That's a real blatant handball to prevent the path of the ball coming to Adam Reach. It was a real moment of stupidity from Rico Henry. But we were the victors from that. And then And then time for the penalty.
Yeah, which there was a bit of discussion between Jordan Rhodes and Fletcher as to who should take it. Stephen Fletcher thankfully won. I was getting annoyed at the small children and the not so young children around me for filming. I was convinced we weren't going to score. Penalties fill me with dread rather than excitement.
Yes.
But luckily, on this occasion, the goalkeeper, who had produced an unbelievably good save previously, when Fletcher sort of ran through straight, one-on-one with him, he produced an amazing save earlier. He was sort of halfway to the corner flag before Fletcher even got to the ball. It was one of the most bizarre bits of goalkeeping from a penalty I've seen probably since Bruce Grobbelaar. Martin sort of started walking towards his right-hand goalpost, and Fletcher put it towards the left-hand goalpost, because why wouldn't you?
Quite easy as you like, just effectively coolly dispatched. He didn't even have to aim for the corner. It was just a little bit left of centre, basically.
Exactly. That was back on parity, back on level terms, and really nice. We didn't completely panic and hand them a goal straight away, which has happened all too regularly this season after us scoring. So we stuck to our mettle, and they made a change themselves, didn't they? They brought on Matthias Jensen, their first sub of the day, who again looked a really tidy little player, kind of in the Bannon mould of running around all over the middle of the pitch and spraying nice passes around. But yeah, Harris, as we were talking about, kept at it against Rasmussen. Rasmussen went in for his big crunching tackle again, and this time it didn't work. Harris rode the tackle, crossed the ball in, and just a gorgeous bit of striking work from Stephen Fletcher. Chested it down and slotted it in the far corner between the legs of the defender. One of the best.
That was beautiful. Yeah, lovely little kind of swivel control finish.
A very difficult goal to score, as is Fletcher's way, but he took it brilliantly. And in his celebration, whipped his shirt off to show off his little sports bra.
Mm-hmm.
I did wonder whether he had some sponsorship, because he took that yellow card, so he'd have to make up that money somehow. And I thought, somebody's got to pay for Christmas, and this time it's Victoria's Secret.
However, the thing I will say, though, that now puts him on 4 yellow cards.
Oh, that was silly, wasn't it?
Which is the thing I was thinking about. I was thinking, I don't think he's conceded many yellows, but actually, no. That's because that's the one thing, you are taking a yellow in that situation. Which is a real
somebody's
shame.
got to pay for Christmas.
Of course.
There's a whole new line now at Victoria's Secret. Stephen's even bigger secret. I'm a big hairy Scotsman and I wear a bra. That's my secret.
So frustrating that we maybe, we're on tenterhooks as we are with Sam Hutchinson for a suspension for another player, which seems to be our way. We seem to like not having a very good disciplinary record.
Yeah, although one of the marked things. So we scored that goal. We're 2-1 up. That was excellent. We then took Sam Hutchinson off for Massimo Luongo. So speaking of poor disciplinary records, this marks an occasion where Hutchinson managed to play over an hour of football and not get a yellow card, which is pretty spectacular in and of itself. But it also, one of the things that marked the last 10 minutes or so going into time added on, we didn't give any stupid fouls away around the box.
That's very true, and that's something, an observation I think I was going to make as well, was that the fact that, despite the fact that it was nervy, we didn't do anything to kind of really ratchet up that situation for ourselves. I did notice that Jordan Rhodes did fancy himself as a bit of a negative playmaker on a couple of occasions.
His best header in a Sheffield Wednesday shirt since his debut was was smashing it back towards our centre backs from the halfway line.
And did you actually notice as well? This was very clear to me because it was on the TV feed I was watching. But like, he really celebrated that thunderous header back into our own half.
Yeah.
There's a real clench fished kind of
little roar he gave. Did our Jordan for again causing some minor kittens for ourselves.
I think he's just completely in his head like, that's what I'm talking about. Got to connect with the header. Yes. They did have some. They did create a couple of chances, didn't they? There was they produced a good save out of Dawson as part of that, and put a couple very close to the post after probably beating Dawson. I don't know.
Yeah, it looked like Dawson was slightly second to a couple of those. I'll be honest. Even the very tame one, which Rico Henry kind of drifted wide.
Yeah,
that seemed like it had Dawson at 6s and 7s in that situation. But thankfully, they couldn't finish for toffee.
They couldn't. No toffee was had.
Because they like honey.
That's right.
Lovely, delicious, 0 point loss honey.
But folks, Brentford have a B on their badge, just so you know. They got a B on their badge. Well, so that was that's our first back-to-back wins since March, was it? Somebody was saying, or April?
Wow, every April, probably April sounds about right.
April, yeah. So hot on the heels of our first away win since September, we've now gone even one better and got our first back-to-back wins in quite a considerable amount of time. And yeah, is everything rosy in the garden? We've muscled our way into the playoff picture. We now sit 6th in the table.
In the garden, we said, we understand that you are the future of pollinating and the future of plants, but fuck off bees. That's what we said. Have it up, you West London fairies, you. And we got some really noxious, terrible spray that we just absolutely maced these bees with.
Yeah, we whipped out the raid and had at it.
Bee raid. Yes, I love it.
And at the end of the game, they were writhing around in some kind of unknowable agony, and we just licked our lips, enjoyed it, wandered off.
We didn't even give them a little kind of sending off of like spilling a bit of tango on them, just to let them spend their last few minutes drowning in the sweet nectar of fizzy pop.
You want this? You like sweet things, don't you? I'm just imagining a young Luke in his shorts. The days where you would chase a wheel down the road with a stick. A pea shooter in your pocket.
Yeah,
oh dear.
Pea shooter, love him.
So 2 wins on the bounce.
And the real kind of
go on, sorry.
What a real inexplicable win. I mean, we showed enough quality in the second half. The thing I was thinking was basically like, despite the fact that we've come up against a very, very good side today, I was there thinking that, we do still have, despite the fact that they are very good, they're still a bit youthful and a bit naive, and I still think there's plenty of ways to kind of hurt them. And not that this is any great kind of claim in our kind of situation that we're a club facing a lot of financial challenges and scrutiny in the charges against us, but we do pay the big bucks, and that is maybe the little bit of difference that it gets when it gets you a player on form like Stephen Fletcher, who has that quality, like Kadeem Harris, who I think has, there's just that little bit of extra feel of like, this is kind of what you pay for. And this is like this running bit of quality, I think, got us over the line today. Was it deserved or was it undeserved? That's an interesting question. It feels like we got out of jail today a little bit. I think I would have felt that a draw might have been about right in terms of this game. However, the
I
thing I
just
want to
think
say is, though, we've come off the back of like being very unfortunate in quite a few games.
Yeah.
So having a bit of, I don't even want to say luck, because I think that's a little bit harsh, and I think that's a little bit ridiculous.
We had no bad luck or very minimal bad luck today. I think is maybe a better, slightly better way to put it. But yeah, I know what you mean. I think on the balance of play, yes, they were the better team in the first half, but it wasn't like we were fending off chance after chance. And I think we really had them rocking in the second half because Fletcher had 2 or 3 very good chances before his penalty. He should have done much, much better with that one-on-one, which was simply just a launch downfield from Dawson. And their 2 centre-backs just watched Fletcher run towards the goal with the ball. The keeper pulled off a tremendous save, but Fletcher should have done an awful lot better with that chance. I think on the balance of chances, I think we deserved to win. Which is nice to say coming off a game against clearly a good side. As you say, maybe there's a bit of youthful, a bit of naivete in the ranks there, but certainly a good team. And on another day, that's the sort of team that could undo us because you'd think all that youth and all those legs and that's what could undo us as a bit. We're at the other end of the scale that we've got a pretty aging squad. So. Yeah, it's intriguing, but lots of positives to take away from it. Whether we can pull the rabbit out of the hat again with that sort of a performance from Rhodes, I just don't know. I mean, it was so strange, but really felt like a managerial masterstroke. That was so clever, and it worked so well for at least for the kind of 20-25 minutes that were important to the whole flow of the game and the result. So do you want to do some player ratings?
Let's do it. Yeah, I feel like maybe my attention hasn't been particularly well focused on this game, so I kind of apologize for that. But I'll see what I can kind of conjure up together from this. Let's start with Dawson in net as usual from back to front. I decided to go for a 6.5 for Dawson. I thought he was fine. He didn't really have too much to do. I thought he did quite a nice little save in the second half. I think it was it was kind of like a looped-in ball, which was kind of brought down for volley. It wasn't explicably difficult, but it was still some nice technique from Dawson to get down and save that one. That was good.
Yeah, I agree. I think 6.5 is a good score. I think his distribution was fairly consistent, which was nice.
It was seemingly better than a lot of games that I think we've seen from Dawson. It's probably some of the best distribution I think we've seen from him. Not scintillating, but not to the point where it's embarrassing us or creating issues or losing possession very quickly. So, yeah.
I think to sort of cover, we've spent an awful lot of time in previous weeks talking about Westwood and weighing up whether it was the right time to put Dawson in. And I think the kind of long and short of it is I'm not convinced Dawson is a particularly good goalkeeper, and he may not even be as good as Westwood is at this point in time.
No.
But he is not making those sort of howlers, and it just felt like, when was that going to stop? It felt like we'd gone past the point where it was going to fix itself with Westwood, and I think Dawson, since he's come in, he's done all right. He's done fine. He's not doing is dropping great goal-costing howlers every game, which means that he is miles better than what we had before. So I think sort of a qualified praise of Dawson, and at the moment I don't want to see him not in nets for us. So good on him, I guess.
Completely.
Odebaggio.
I really went for a 6 just because
he doesn't do well defending crosses or corners. It's not within his wheelhouse defensively. So I wanted to kind of say, as we were talking about Moses earlier in the show, he has qualities, but I find it difficult outside of the fact that he's very quick to think exceptionally what those qualities are that I kind of see on a consistent basis. Maybe he's just a very inconsistent player. He's better than this as a right back, but I don't know by how much, and I don't know why. It just seems like I don't think he's very good at heading. I don't think that's part of his real
strengths as a footballer, but the fact that I never really see him try means I don't think I can really kind of assess him. But then on the flip side of that, still kind of, it's like the fact that he's not trying just is worrying.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to know where he's at because I think we are seeing him come out of his shell more going forward. And he made, at one point today, actually, he made a really great run in the first half. If he'd been picked out, he would have been one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And that's something we don't really have from fullback.
Yeah,
so
but then
he does offer things.
But he's never particularly convincing in any of the positions that we want him to be. Like, I kind of feel like he's becoming a bit like... He reminds me of Jeremy Halan in certain respects.
Yeah.
In the fact that he's the pace to kind of, who can kind of stretch the game a bit with his pace down the wing. But he's not a natural winger. And he's not someone I ever really want to see. He's never going to challenge or go for those wide berths. Like, you'd think all the players that we have do far better jobs of being wingers. If we're looking at 4 players here, Kadeem Harris, is our star performer. Right now, it's probably kind of close for different reasons between Murphy and Reach. Mainly because I'd say that Reach is kind of underperforming and Murphy's having a bit of a good spell when overall he's not consistent in his performances. So maybe it's a slight second to Murphy. And then we've got the enigma of Fernando Forestieri, probably 4th. And I wouldn't really want Odebajo, on the wing. Or I think he'd be good in a substitute. But, if you're really struggling and you want someone to stretch out. But it kind of feels like... It just feels like a callback if you're having a player like that, when now we're a team with a squad with such amazing quality. But Odebajo feels like someone you would bring off the bench to stretch the wing out, late in the game, like 5-6 years ago when we're a team whose quality would have been a lot less. So, and I do like him as a player. I'm struggling to see consistently, especially after, a number of errors that he's made this season. This should have been his chance to basically, to get a word into Gary's ear to say, consider me for the starting berth for right back.
Yeah,
and it's not happened there. And basically now, this is the last game of Palmer's suspension. I'm pretty sure Palmer's going to come straight back in at right back.
Yeah, it's an intriguing one. Because I would have said before today he'd done a pretty good job in filling in for Palmer.
He has. He's done okay. And then the thing was, I actually felt that I think it was before one of the international breaks. He that was it. It was the question about whether it's the emergence of Morgan Fox, which I don't think has done him any favors either. Because then it was going to basically be, let's look at Palmer at left back and Odebajo at right back.
Yeah.
And then I remember Odebajo missing out, and I remember thinking, that's really harsh. I think he's done well. But there's a number of question marks over it. There's a reason why I don't think right now he is first choice for the right back berth.
I think all 3 of those main fullbacks are, to an extent, it's a choice of what. None of them are good at everything.
No.
So it's kind of what I think. The nice thing is that we've got, if they're all 3 available, we've got some different choices to make, which is it's a nice thing to have.
Totally.
But none of them are the complete solution. So I think Odebajo is probably the best at attacking out of all 3, but he's almost certainly the worst at defending.
When have you seen him do a decent cross, though? I can't really remember him doing a half-decent cross.
He had a decent shot the other game. He's picking up positions. I don't think we necessarily... I don't know. It's tricky. I'm not sort of giving a full-throated support of his position in the team.
Yeah.
But I also wouldn't mind if he keeps the right back berth for the time being, even though Palmer is back and available. I thought Fox again. Well, we should get there, but I think to put this to bed, I think 6 is absolutely fair enough. I mean, he did make. He was at fault for the goal. There's absolutely no 2 ways about it. Big Dominic Iorfa.
Big Don, Dominic Iorfa. I'm going to go 7.5. I just love him. He was fantastic. He was probably maybe even, I don't know, he's up there for one of the man of the matches, I think. He's just today, he was so important, and he made so many blocks and interceptions, and he's so quick and strong and comfortable and agile. Yeah. And really just did a huge job of nullifying so many attacks from Brentford. Just an absolute monster. Just fantastic. I think I'm going to go grade that to an 8. I think an 8 is actually effective for Dominic today.
Yeah, I'd go 8 for him. I think. Yeah. Well, we do keep saying a lot of the same things, but he's being consistently just fantastic. So yeah. We're at the point of potentially sort of running out of superlatives, but again, he was steady in those crazy moments towards the end when they were really trying to sort of turn the screw and make something happen. He had 2 or 3 very defining moments that were really, really important. Not overselling himself, but making sure that things stopped happening and that were sort of heading in the wrong direction. So yeah, I think 8, absolutely bang on. Tom Lees. The formally spaffed over Tom Lees.
I went for a 6.5. Maybe I could upgrade that to a 7. Maybe that's a little bit harsh. I thought he was all right. I didn't really see a great deal of what he brought to the game. He was fine. A certain degree of steadiness. He wasn't, didn't do anything to unnerve me or make me uncomfortable, not really having any lack of confidence in that rear guard today. I just don't remember much of the plaudits and much of what he did, essentially, in the game today.
Yeah.
But if he's part of this defense in which, I don't expect that basically centre-back B or centre-back 2, whoever we've got alongside Dominic Iorfa, which is how it's becoming now.
The other guy.
As long as the other guy from Dominic Iorfa, isn't giving Dominic Iorfa even more to do to win the game. Carry the entire defense himself. Though maybe Dominic Iorfa can actually do that as well. We just don't know at this point.
Yeah, I think that's
if we just had like one centre back and it was Dominic Iorfa, maybe we'd still do okay. I don't want to invite that opportunity, but I think given the circumstances, he could do pretty well.
Holding up the whole team on his back like Atlas. Still making rangy runs forward.
Big turtle, Dominic Iorfa.
Yes, yeah. That takes us to Captain Fox Morgan.
Captain Fox Morgan, I liked him today. He was good. I was giving him a 7. Had some very good crosses in the box. Defensively, I think he did okay. I don't really remember him being taxed too much or too embarrassed. I think he did well. He had some really nice crosses.
Yeah, I think he did a fine job today. I'd probably go 7, maybe.
I went for a 7, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's...
You did hear me, right?
I did. I think I was just sort of concurring in an odd way. He's again a bit like Odobad. He's probably the most limited in terms of what he does with the ball, but weirdly his crossing is pretty decent. It's just his kind of everyday play is a bit sort of knee jerk at times, but he did a fine job today. So do we want to go for Murphy now?
Murphy, I mean, for a 6.5, not one of the better recent Murphy performances, but he was okay. Had a really weak shot in the second half. So it was pretty poor.
There was also a point where in the first half he got played in over the top by Bannon, a really gorgeous ball. And oddly for him, I think one of the things I like about Murphy is he's quite direct generally. Harris gets bogged down in the play a bit more than Murphy. Murphy really is very single-minded. He wants to either cross the ball or get in a position to shoot. Nearly always. He doesn't really care about the other stuff. But this was one of those moments where, oddly, considering he's in a bit of good form, his first touch took him towards the corner flag rather than towards the goal. And if he touched it inside with his first touch, he really would have caused them some problems. Like there would have been defenders he would have been between defenders and the ball, and he probably would have been in the penalty box, which is always puts you in a very favourable position as the attacker. And it's just a bit of a shame that he didn't do that, and that could have maybe made the game very different if he'd done that early doors as well. And we didn't really get behind them after that. That was the first and last of doing that in the first half. So I was slightly disappointed in him there. So yeah, I think 6 again. I concur. Hutch.
Hutch initially, from the first half, I initially gave Hutch a 7.5. If the game would have carried on and we would have seen the same level of performance, and maybe the other players hadn't stepped up to turn the result around, I think he probably would have been the man of the match. But he did get lagged quite a bit in that second half, so I've stretched down to a 7 on him. Okay. But I think we said a lot about him in the beginning of the show. It was a really good performance from him, and a bit of everything and getting everywhere. Just a lot of confidence and class. And when you get that, and when you get a player like Hutchinson on form, you get to see some of those passes. You get to see some of those lovely diags, as he loves calling them.
Diags, yes. I think it's just one of those things. He gave his all today. But when you are the wrong side of 30, you just cannot go pedal to the metal for so often as he did in the first half, and not kind of pay the penalty in the second half. So yeah, I think he had much less say in the second half before he came off. But yeah, he was the bright spark of the first half. So. So did you end up with 7.5, did you say? Or 7?
I went for a 7 in the end, because I think that kind of evened out.
Yeah, I think that's a fair telling.
And ladies and gentlemen, he's that wee, Barry Bannon.
He's that wee, Barry Bannon.
And went for a 7 for Baz. He was just to the heart of everything good that we did. And I don't think we... we sometimes talk about lesser Bannon performances, sometimes purely because we don't get that output from the Bannon berries. It doesn't turn into a delicious Bannon wine.
Yeah.
So intriguingly, actually, we were almost there with Bannon today. But in terms of assists and actually the key plays, that all went down to another player who we can come on to on the wing, who maybe we should go on to next, and that is
what's worth mentioning with Bannon, some absolute stinking set pieces today. Awful set pieces. He did it, the Pelupessy corner. He did it. He spuffed it. He sort of scuffed it along into the side netting.
Though it looks as though it was in play for longer than it was, in a weird way, unlike the Pelupessy one, which exited play very, very quickly.
And he passed to the goalkeeper twice from corners. This touching your hands to your head is becoming one of the sort of... It's almost like a Stuart Lee-esque recurring joke of the season. Because what the heck does it mean? It just seems to mean we take a corner. That is the only consistent thing that happens when Murphy or Bannon touch their head before they play a corner into the box. Because it can be something that's scuffed along the floor straight out of play. It can be a short corner. It can be a really good corner. It can be all manner of terrible corners. It doesn't make any sense. It's really stupid. It's starting to annoy me. Stop doing it. It's weird.
Sorry, it's only starting to annoy you, Rich? I don't think this has come up on the podcast before,
Anyway, Kadeem Harris.
Kadeem Harris was excellent today. I'm going to go for a 7.5 because, again, I think he had a tough tussle. The first half, like we mentioned, he wasn't very effective, but then it really ramped up and we got 2 very key, huge moments out of him today, which is just massive. So, and like we said, it's about his stamina. It's about his physical stamina, his mental stamina. And he's got both in spades. Just a long side pace and a lovely step over. He's just such a revelation on the wing. And I love seeing, we try with Harris on,
So was Harris purely left wing today, or do you think he did switch flanks?
Yeah, he didn't move today. He just kept on the left flank.
Right.
Kept plugging away. I did think that might have been something we tried at some point, was just to swap them over and see if something happened, but never came up. You're absolutely right. I think there's all sorts of wingers. And I think Harris and Murphy are quite good representations of a couple of sort of archetypes of wingers. And I much prefer the Harris type to the Murphy type. Because Murphy it's all or nothing, isn't it? He's either going to get a cross that produces a goal, or he might score a goal himself. But otherwise, he doesn't really contribute to the game, and he offers nothing going backwards. So his contribution is purely measured on those things, those kind of metrics of assists and goals. There's just nothing else to look at. Whereas Harris he's there all the time for the team, and does great work in relieving precious situations by being able to carry the ball away. And as you say, that the positive sort of mental fortitude to stick at your task when the first half he'd got nothing, absolutely nothing out of Rasmussen, and he just kept going and eventually wore him down. He should do interrogations or something. Kadeem Harris, he's amazing. Loved it. I absolutely loved it, and that's the kind of workmanlike performance that I think fans can respond to. It's not running around like a headless chicken, but it is sticking to your task in a sort of undeniable way. And like erosion, he broke down Rasmussen, and I imagine he just sat in the corner of the dressing room crying. I think 7.5. I'm tempted to go 8, but that I am conscious that I'm sort of still on the high of the game. So Ati Nuiu next up.
I've gone for a 6 for Ati. I guess for numerous reasons, which I couldn't really decipher. It wasn't really to be. Wasn't really to be his game. I've also written a little joke here, Rich, as well. I said if before Ati we were never happy, then clearly we're just doomed to misery.
Very nice stuff.
I wanted a cart horse, especially one of a Kosovan nature.
Oh dear, yeah. It just was, as you say, just not his day today. Not through any real fault of his own. I think he tried, but just nothing really worked. So last up of the starters, Stephen Fletcher.
Stephen Fletcher, gone for an 8. Just great finishing, just so classy in just all regards. It's such a joy to watch him at this stage, because we don't know how much longer we'll have Stephen Fletcher for in this Vettel. Yeah. But he's taken his goal tally to 10 goals for the season now. It is insane, even with 3 penalties, I think, in there.
Yeah.
It's still a very, very, very good return from him. And it's incredible that he's just making headlines, really. Like, it just felt like it, just when I was watching in the commentary, the commentary I had on the DAZN feed it was the featured game, so it will be featured on Quest, so you can see lengthy highlights. Paul Walker was doing the commentary, and just the fact that even though Paul Walker is someone with a very kind of local connection to Sheffield,
yes.
It's nice to know that basically someone in the media just kind of recognizes just how great he's doing.
Yes. This is Stephen Fletcher with undoubtedly, well, I mean, obviously there's a lot of the season left, but he will never have had a start to a season like he's had this so far this year. Mm-hmm. Like, this is, I mean, he's already, if he gets one more goal, he's got as many goals as he got the whole of last season. As we touched on at the start, the most league goals he's ever got in a season is 12. He's already on 10. He's just playing brilliantly. And I think that was the frustrating thing in the first half was, what is the definition of a partnership that's not working? Well, if Stephen Fletcher, who by some measures is probably our best player at the moment, is not playing as well when he's partnered with someone, that probably means that partnership isn't working. So I think that was the telling thing, and I do think it was a good change to make. I probably would have been wrong, but I probably would have made the change for somebody in midfield. I probably would have brought Luongo on or something like that. But it was going to be Atty that went, because we knew that Stephen Fletcher could play much, much better than he was doing. I wasn't convinced that if we'd taken Stephen Fletcher off, I don't think Atty would have played that much better in the second half. So, yeah, 8 is I think accounts for the fact that he had a pretty quiet first half, but a storming second half. I think that's fair and absolutely fair enough. Gives him man of the match as well for me. I undoubtedly.
Think so. Definitely.
You score 2 goals, you generally take away the man of the match award. We'll work through the subs. So Jordan Rhodes was on the pitch for the whole of the second half.
He ran around a fair bit. I opted for a 6. Maybe I think that's about fair, about right. Even though he wanted to do some negative playmaking, he had that kind of Iago twinkle in his little baby face eyes.
Yeah.
We still managed to survive that situation. I will say 2 other statements as well, 2 other sentences. My first is that I wish he was Stephen Fletcher, or maybe even anyone else. And my second statement is that he is born offside.
Yeah.
He was offside a lot today. Like, a lot. Like, I feel you could have like a 5-minute highlight reel of him being offside.
He did seem to be constantly offside, but then I think that's, yeah.
You think that's to do with the high line as well? And
yeah, but also I think the chapter in his autobiography which covers his time at Wednesday will, largely be something along the lines of largely offside, the Wednesday years. Because I've never seen this player. Even Stephen Fletcher is not caught offside so consistently. But yeah, I think 6 is fine. It's hard to point to what he did, but he certainly made the team play better with his running, and I think that it was hopeful. I don't want anybody to be a like non-contributing lump in the squad, and the fact that there's an idea that from time to time there might be a role for Jordan Rhodes to play. I have absolutely no qualms with that, and if that's the case, brilliant. If we can get, we keep talking about juice from the berries. If we can get a few drips out of the Jordan Rhodes berry, well done, Gary Monk. Because we have been squeezing, and there was nothing.
He's found coming out from those, nothing puncturing the skin of those berries.
He has somehow figured out some sort of Rhodes Fracking method with that performance.
Rhodes Fracking, amazing.
So next on was Reach. Adam Reach.
I went for a 6.5. I'm enjoying the substitute berth for him. I miss his great performances. I miss prime Adam Reach, and it's sad that he's not there. I think about our predictions for the season, and I thought our man of the season in a pretty conservative and middling year that I kind of panned out for us under that kind of brave new world of going into the season with Bullen and, hilariously being linked with Gary Monk, but then let's just dawdle around and see if Bullen can, fail this opportunity, which he did, bless him. And I thought like the person who would be our probably prime player is Adam Reach, and he hasn't been there. And hasn't. It's been disappointing.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's hard to know why it's the case, but yeah, that's where we're at. He hasn't reacted as positively to having competition for his place as maybe
We
Some
hoped.
people do, and some people don't. Some people flourish under that sort of pressure. I remember Kieran Lee. I remember distinctly having a text conversation with yourself and my sister, who is the other person that gets to be bored by me talking about football more often than not. When Carlos came in and we signed all those players that summer, I remember just saying, like, well, I don't think we'll see much of Kieran Lee. And Kieran Lee got so much better as the company around him improved. He became a better player. I think undoubtedly that this is the only time really that Reach has had people vying for his same position in the team. And at the moment, it's not brought out the best in him. He seems to have gone within himself a bit. But yeah, as you say, the start of him getting back to his best, presumably, is these bright performances coming off the bench, and today was one of those. So I'd probably give him a 6.5, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I went for. I think it's fair.
Yeah. So
I guess there's a funny thing that we talk about. Like, I mean, every squad can be improved.
Yeah.
Imagine if we somehow managed to find the next Kevin De Bruyne, and that Kevin De Bruyne is then going to replace Bannon. And the thing would be, we'd all be incredibly sad because Bannon would be on the bench. But, sad in the best way, because we've got the next KDB, running the show in midfield for us and doing numerous fantastic things on the pitch. So maybe the slight upside, which wasn't kind of really sold today, was that usually we've kind of found that Jacob Murphy has been a better option.
Yeah.
And maybe, having a better option than Adam Reach on the pitch is a slight kind of upside to his kind of situation.
It's not the worst place in the world to be that whichever one starts, you have the other one running out, been tired out for an hour or more.
Yeah.
It's not a bad spot to be in. I think generally we can rely on Harris to be able to play 90 minutes. He seems to have that in his locker more often than not. But if we get to the point where Reach or Murphy, whoever started, is starting to flag and get to bring the other one on, neither of them are challenges you would relish, having chased a pacey, hard-working winger around.
I think just weirdly right now I think I'd kind of prefer both the substitute appearance for both Murphy and Reach. So
maybe we just do it at half time and think of it that way.
Yeah, there you go. One has to lose out by maybe, mild, disappoint me a little bit more in a mild sense, from a starting position rather than coming off the bench. But yeah, it's weird right now. It's the one area of the team that when things are going well, I still don't, I think we can still improve that a little bit,
Yeah, I appreciate
Anyway,
it.
I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm just being very critical coming off the back of 2 wins on the spin.
Yeah. So the last sub didn't have a huge amount of time on the pitch, but we should probably talk about him briefly. Massimo Alongo.
I went for a 6. I cannot recall him being on the pitch.
He put his foot in a few times. He's disciplined. He doesn't generally give away silly fouls, and he's good at tackling. He likes to tackle. So I think it was a good sub to make, because a tired Hutch absolutely would have given away 2 or 3 free kicks around the edge of our box. There's just no doubt in my mind that would have happened. So I think it was a good sub to make. I think he came on and did a job. He didn't have that long to do anything. But yeah, I think 6 is fine. Well, well done the team. It was a good performance all round that second half. So just briefly looking ahead, we've got Derby up next.
Yeah, midweek trip to Derby, and then we've got a kind of East Midlands doubleheader, right? Because next week is Forest, I believe.
So rest, yeah. So any thoughts on those 2?
Oh, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we've come into like a very difficult spell, 3 games in just over a week. And then, this was a tough game. And we've come out with 3 points. I feel like Derby should be easy, but it's probably not going to be easy. So I can see myself getting a little bit... I really hope we can beat Derby, just because I don't... I dislike Derby, and also they've been a bit of a bogey team for us.
They're in the doldrums a little bit, aren't they? I mean,
they're a little bit in the doldrums.
They're 7 points behind us at this point, and not scored many goals.
I
I would be very happy with winning just one of these games. If we could win just one of these 2 games, I'd be very, very happy.
They're both generally tricky ones for us, I think. Both of those games. Derby is much more of a bogey team. I think we've maybe carved out a little bit of a streak against Forest, haven't we?
Are we away to both? We're away at Derby?
Yeah, we're away to both, yeah.
That's annoying. I really feel we could do with maybe Forest at home, So I'm interested. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen in these 2 games. I'm not particularly optimistic, but then I feel we could be mildly and pleasantly surprised by some of the stuff that Gary Monk is putting together for us.
Yeah, it's another one of these back-to-back weeks, isn't it? So rarely do we see 2 good performances in a row. That doesn't mean the results won't be positive in two games in a row, but it's it just makes things a bit trickier. Do you think we'll be staying in a travel lodge in sort of Long Eaton between the games?
And just finding some kind of local park to just kind of put some combs down and run around on.
Yeah. Gary Monk's got this great thing where he takes a big plate along to breakfast.
Excellent.
Well, on that silly note, I think we should probably say cheerio.
Awesome. Have a good week, Rich.
Same to you and everyone listening. It's going to be interesting to look back at. This is a tough week, but who knows? I mean, we're in good form now. Teams should be starting to worry about playing Wednesday, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Cheerio.
See you, Rich.